Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. On my video on Monday, I talked about why I believe that PulseChain is going to be the best performing asset over this next cycle. The reason why I believe this is for a few different main points. It's going to be a layer 1 blockchain where so many new tokens can build on it, and that's why I believe that it's going to have such high price returns. With that being said, for today's video, I wanted to actually cover the very first crypto that Richard Hart ever made, and that was Hex. Hex is really the reason why PulseChain exists, and I believe that Hex doing well in this next cycle is ultimately going to propel PulseChain into these new all-time highs and major price expansion that we're all expecting to see. If you're new and just find this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Always remember to click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And make sure you guys sign up and join the Discord server, or go ahead and download my free ebook. Links are in the description for both. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so for today's video, what we're going to be jumping into right away is talking about Hex. Now, in our last video, not yesterday, but the day before last, what we actually talked about was PulseChain and why I believe that it's going to do so well this coming cycle. We talked about layer 1s, why layer 1s are actually some of the best performing assets in each of the crypto bull runs we've seen. I've personally made more money buying layer 1s than any of my other investments so far. And so for this next cycle, I'm going to continue to stick to what has worked so far. And one of the things that I'm focusing big on is PulseChain. Now, when it comes to me focusing on PulseChain, I feel like it's very important that everybody that is excited about PulseChain, because I've had a lot of messages, a lot of people have been asking me how they can actually go about buying it. And I also wanted to apologize because I forgot to link all of the information that I was using in my video in the description. So for today's video, people that were wondering why I didn't leak that information, I'm going to do it in today's video, I promise, pinky promise. So for today's video, I wanted to cover Hex and why this is actually going to be the reason why PulseChain does so well. Now, a lot of people might be asking me, well, what is Hex? Is it also a layer 1? Is it something a little different? And it's not a layer 1, it's definitely something different. Basically, what we can look at Hex as is just a high-interest bank account. Let's just go over to their website, and it'll kind of explain itself. Now, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here. I just want to give you guys a brief overview for the people that have been wanting to understand a little bit more about why I foresee so much value actually coming into PulseChain. Now, here's the big thing, guys. A lot of people weren't really serious about my video the other day, and I'm here to basically just lay all of those rumors to rest. I'm here to tell you guys straight and forward, I am very serious on PulseChain. I wouldn't have made the video if I wasn't. And so with me being so serious about it, I want to cover deeper into the overall ecosystem and the value proposition that I see as a whole. Now, what is Hex? So Hex is basically a high-interest bank account. They pay out about 38% returns a year, and they have different levels that you can actually lock up your money. What you're doing is you're basically staking your assets for long periods of time, and then the longer the period, the more that you're actually going to be earning in your return. Now, we can come down here and look at some of the different marketing ploys that Richard Hart has. For the most part, I'm really not trying to get into a lot of that stuff. What I'm trying to cover is really just what at the very core is Hex. Now, basically all it is a certificate of deposit, a high-interest bank account. What you're doing is you're locking away your asset for a given period of time. The longer that you're locking that away, the higher the earn that you're going to be able to the higher the yield that you're going to be able to earn. Now, you can stake your Hex by locking up any amount for a period between 1 and 5,555 days. Your stake accrues rewards every day, and the amount of yield depends on the length of your stake. Longer pays better. The APY for the Hex stake of average length is around 40%, while traditional bank CDs average less than 2%. It's really funny because I remember when I first started getting into crypto, all the way back in 2016, my dad and my family really is not the investing type. I don't know anybody that actually talks much about investing in my family, and I was really the first person that really got excited about that in general. And so when it came to me trying to learn some of this stuff, I remember asking my dad basic questions about investing, and him telling me that he didn't really do a lot. He had some CDs, and I asked him briefly what that was and what it paid. And I remember this was in the 2018 bear market at this point. And so we had already kind of been dabbling in crypto for a couple of years now. But when he told me that he was only making a couple percent, it really blew my mind, because he had all of this money sitting in these little tiny, 2-3% interest rate bank accounts, and he could just be investing it into crypto in the bear market. Of course, hindsight's 2020. We can never think about these things before they happen. Well, most of us don't. But that's why I'm here talking about this stuff. It's because I believe PulseChain is going to set off in a huge way. Now, why is Hex and a high interest bank account, so to speak, why does that have to do so much with PulseChain doing good? And it's simply just because of the fact, the proven track record of what Hex accomplished in that last cycle, with all of the hate, with all of the rumors and the FUD that was around. Most of you guys weren't around to actually see that, but I was here back in 2018. I remember going through that entire bear market, and especially when Hex came out on the spotlight, when Richard Hart really started to hammer this marketing tactic away. It was really... it got immense hate, basically. Everybody was hating on it. All of the influencers were hating on it. All of the traders were hating on it. All of these people really didn't see the value in it. And I find that in the same way PulseChain is kind of going under the radar, I think that it's going to do the same thing. And it makes me more confident in talking about these investments, knowing so many people are still, unknowing or are still against it, especially for a crypto that's done so well. I mean, it's currently ranked about 14th in market cap, $32 billion total market cap. Price is about 6 cents, but the big thing I like to talk about and highlight is the fact that it went up about 10,000x. So we can see here at the all-time graph, this thing went up tremendously high. And so you guys got to remember that a lot of people that trusted in Richard Hart throughout these periods, people that got invested throughout this period, all of the people that started to get excited, started to see that the true value was actually here. These are people that were either, trusting, or they just 100% knew from the very beginning with their own inner trust. But these are people that believe in Richard Hart. These are people that made a ton of money on this move up. People that only had small amounts of money down here, maybe they only invested, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. When it came all the way up to these points in here, that's literally worth millions of dollars. And so some of these people have a significant amount of money that they could sacrifice, and they did. And so that's why I believe that PulseChain will do good, is because it did. Hex was kind of the project, right? This is Richard Hart's first really breakout onto the crypto scene. And it did so well that so many people are trusting in it that I believe with PulseChain, it's already going to get the added benefit of the people that already did well in the Hex run. Now you're seeing all of these new people that say, hey man, I missed out on Hex. Like me, I missed out on Hex. And it really wasn't because, well, some of it was because of my own ignorance, because I had the chance to get in throughout this entire period here. I did actually have money throughout there. But I remember watching Hex at the very beginning, when Richard Hart was hammering this away, talking about how all of these Bitcoin wells are holding up all of the Bitcoin and how we need to lock away this money, and this Hex will be kind of like the new Bitcoin, and it'll eradicate all of these old wells that are just hoarding up all of the money, right? That was kind of a big selling point that he was hammering away. And I really wanted to get on board with Hex. I really did believe in it. But I was broke. I was living in my mom's basement. I didn't have any money. And so that was way back in the day when I had just barely began my YouTube channel. In fact, this could have been just barely before my YouTube channel even started on July 3rd, 2018. So it was a long time ago. And so I never ended up getting into it. But I was one of those people that has been watching Hex do so well, knowing that, hey, if there's another opportunity like this, I'm getting into it. Well, we do have that other opportunity, and that's actually where I'm going to be covering PulseChain. Now, we covered this in yesterday's video, or not yesterday, the day before. We covered this. I'm not going to get into it. What I want to actually cover about today's video is deeper diving into Hex and why I believe that Hex is still going to do really well in this next cycle. But I think that we should ultimately be focusing on PulseChain and some of the upcoming projects building on PulseChain. And the reason why I think that there's money flooding into Hex today is really just the way that the price structure looks itself. When we're comparing a lot of the other cryptos, to me, Hex looks like a market that is still getting accumulated, and it still has a very high probability that it's going to do well in the next cycle, because nothing really has changed with Hex. People can still stake assets for a long period of time. People can still earn their 40% depending on how much they're staking and how long they're staking. And so with this, there's going to be that same new people that come into this next cycle that are going to be looking to do the same thing. With Hex, it did so well in the last cycle that you're going to be looking there's going to be people coming in here and they're going to automatically just stick with Hex. They're going to stick with it because they see a high market cap. They're going to view that as safer. And so while the returns might be smaller, you know, obviously from the people that bought in way down there at the very beginning, but nonetheless, I still think there's a great opportunity. Now, I'm not trying to talk so much about the opportunity of buying Hex. I'm trying to talk to you guys about what I see inside of the charts and why I believe that the time to launch Pulse is going to be coming up very soon. And I believe that Richard Hart knows this. Even though Richard Hart believes that we're going to be going lower, he believes Bitcoin's going to 11K. Let me kind of talk to you guys about what I see inside of the charts and why I believe that maybe the bottom's a little bit closer than we think. Now, when I'm looking at the Hex chart, one of the reasons why I think the Hex looks so good and why there is a lot of money still inside of this market is because when we're comparing it to prior cycles, when we're comparing it to some of the better cycles that held up the best in the last bear market, Hex is right there with them as far as what the price structure looks like. Now let's come over here and let's actually just analyze a few different things. So this bottom chart is going to be Monero, and I'm going to give you guys a couple different examples because they all look similar to Hex. But when it comes to finding the most identical one that reminds me the most of Hex, Monero is that chart. And when I first pulled this up, I just instantly knew. But when we're looking at Monero, Monero basically did this exact same thing in that last cycle, where it started to go through its first breakouts into new all-time highs. It made these big impulses into price discovery. And it really went through these two higher highs, and then that's what took us for that blow-off top to end that cycle. Hex is almost the exact same price structure as all of those other altcoins in that last 2018 bear market. And I find it so interesting that every cycle, no matter the differences, no matter the new cryptos that come up, the new hype that sets itself up, it doesn't matter. The emotions are always going to be the exact same. Now, the price structure can look a little different, but the reason the price actually ends up looking similar each cycle is because of the human emotions that are played out inside of a cycle. A market cycle is a multi-year process from very beginning of the bottom of the cycle to the multi-year process of it taking to the blow-off top, all the way followed to the next bear market. They're all so much alike each and every time. There's not a lot of differences. We see roughly the same percent decreases from all-time high to the all-time low. The price structure will even mimic each other. And we'll see similar cryptos that will do well, and some of them will just fade out into obscurity. It happens every single cycle. The cryptos that follow more closely to Bitcoin seem to do the best and hold up the best. And that's why I see Hex playing out and actually doing well in this next cycle. Now it looks just almost identical to what XMR did in that last move. We make these lower highs in here. It looks a little bit different. Every cycle is going to look a little different. But for the most part, you guys are getting what I'm pointing at here. When XMR kind of fell, we made one more low before going into our capitulation. In my opinion, that was this move here for Hex. And what we saw for XMR was one more capitulation, this little rounded bottom. And that's really where we went for a couple years of this sideways accumulation. And that's what led us into, you know, technically we made a new all-time high, but I don't believe that this cycle for XMR is done by any means. I believe this thing's going to keep going up, you know. Kind of the thing that we saw with a lot of these altcoins in that last cycle was the fact that a lot of them didn't really make the same returns that we were expected of seeing. And I actually believe the reason why we saw that is simply because the fact Bitcoin itself didn't have quite the same bull run that we were expected to see. And it didn't have nearly as much money coming into the market. And so obviously this is just my own opinion, but when we're looking at this in terms of the similarities, what we notice here is that this looks to basically be the completed end of the bear market. I mean, it's not like we can't go sideways for a significant period of time, but I would basically make the argument that we're not going to be breaking below this point here. Because when we're looking at past cycles, I mean, if we're looking at the all-time high of XMR to the all-time low that we made down in here, we're looking at about 92% from the high to the low. If we're comparing what Hex is at right now, or what it did, you know, that was basically 94%. So this was even a deeper pullback. We've already hit all of those thresholds for what we needed to see for a bottom of a bear market. And it's also happening as we've just created almost near identical price structure to many of the other prior cycles. Now that's just XMR. I think that XMR looks the most identical, but we can also make the conclusion here by taking a look at Bitcoin, right? And this is one that I like to look at too, because when we're looking at the Bitcoin chart, this one also is just kind of repeating the same sort of fractals in here. And I find it really interesting that even though this is a completely different cycle, the emotions are still pretty much the same thing. And then once again, that takes us to the blow off top. We go through kind of the same sort of price action in here. It looks a little bit different, but I mean, you guys get the point of what we're looking at. This all looks about the same. It's the emotions that are the same each and every cycle, right? Everything can be different as far as which cryptos are taking off, which cryptos aren't taking off, what's the new technology, and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, when we're seeing Hex, that really has not a lot to do with Bitcoin itself, aside from the fact it's a store of value, we're seeing it creating these almost exact same price structure. And I think that that is ultimately a testament to the fact that the emotions stay the same, and it's a lot of the same money that's accumulating each cycle. And so this is why I want to talk to you guys about this. Overall, what we saw in prior cycles, we could definitely see Hex go sideways for a little bit longer, because where we're at from the all-time high to just today, only ever finished 333 days from the all-time high to where we're at today. So generally, in all of the other cycles I'm comparing, these lasted almost exactly a year from the high to the low. So we need a little bit more accumulation before we're at that same exact threshold. But, what we're looking at is almost the same. We're about a year from the all-time high to where we're at today after this big decline. So even if we end up retesting the range lows and kind of going sideways here until November or closer towards the end of the year, in my opinion, all that we're doing is creating some type of accumulation structure. Even if we fall back down and retest the range lows, we go sideways and make a big rounded bottom type formation, eventually we're going to break out of this thing and we're going to start a new cycle, and it'll play out just like all of the other cycles have in years past. Even if Hex does some lackluster performance and it only retests the all-time highs, I'm not going to try and predict what's going to happen by any means, but at the end of the day, I do believe that this is accumulation that's taking place, and we can look to many other prior cycles that have shown this exact same accumulation at their bear market bottoms. And so I personally believe that what we're getting ready for is another bull market. With us getting ready for this next bull market, Hex already doing so well is going to provide a lot of buy support going into PulseChain, like it already has. A lot of the people that were big into Hex early on are big into PulseChain early on. You can bet your ass that they've already sacrificed. And so just think about this. Just keep all of this stuff in mind. We're going to also be paying attention for the release of PulseChain. Like I've stated, guys, links are going to be in the description for all of this information if you want to find it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing updates. If you guys want to join the Discord server, download my free ebook. Links are in the description for that. For the people that would also like to join my video course, my signals, follow all those trades that I take inside my Discord server, links are going to be provided for you in the description. Go ahead and sign up on my website. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.